From Relay FM, this is Connected, episode 309. Today's show is brought to you by Text Expander from Smile and Pingdom. My name is Mike Hurley, and I'm joined by Federico Vitici. Ciao, Federico.
Ciao, Mike.
Hello.
Old school intro. I love it.
I know. I had to, I don't do this very often, so I had to really think to myself what show I was doing an intro for at that moment, because, I'm old now, so I forget these things. No Stephen today. Stephen had a plumbing emergency.
It's just not a good thing to have.
No.
Let me tell you, plumbing emergencies.
So me and Stephen were talking a couple of days ago because we have a call every Monday. It's our stand-up because we're a business, so we have a stand-up on a Monday. What's morning for him, afternoon for me. And I think he had to move it, or we had to skip it. I don't even remember now. Who knows? And because he was having his fuse box changed.
Okay.
Like something like electricity-wise.
I have no idea what that is, but okay.
When your lights go off and you have to flick a switch to get them to come back on because it's tripped a fuse. Yeah, so that's a fuse box.
But
right?
I don't know what I don't have a fuse. Like, is that an object that you're supposed to have? Like, what does it look like? Okay, so let me Google fuse box.
Or like breakers, like circuit breakers, I think they're called in America.
Fuse box.
Yeah.
Is it called fuse box? Okay, yeah, I do have this.
Yeah. So he had that replaced, I believe, because old electricity. And I think we had a conversation about something along the lines of, you're always having stuff changed over. You'll probably be okay for a bit. 2 days later, basically, from what I can gather, Stephen just has no plumbing now, is what I was able to gather from his situation. So I believe in my heart of hearts that all connected listeners should be sending messages of actual real support to Stephen at this time. So I would suggest that everybody tweets at him of like, we support you, Stephen, and then your favorite plumbing-related emoji.
Plumbing or water-related emoji.
Yeah, so you could send him a toilet, or you could send him a shower, and then you could do one better when it comes to support, and you could donate to St. Jude, because that's what you should be doing. Everybody should be doing right now. Go to stjude.org/relay. I'm really excited because we've had a great week so far, and I'm super, super thankful for everybody that has donated so far. I'm just bringing up the page now, Federico, so I can tell our listeners that we are at $24,400 raised, which is absolutely fantastic. I am so thankful for everybody that has donated any money so far, but there's a lot more of you that can, and let me tell you a little bit about why you should do that. St. Jude is an incredible place, and they do incredible things, and we are working with them throughout August and then into September, because September is Child Cancer Awareness Month. So this is the time where we want to work with them, and we get together to make sure that we're doing what we can to try and help these children that need it. Between 180,000 and 240,000 children are diagnosed every single year with cancer, which is an unbelievable amount. Treatments invented at St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital have helped push the overall childhood cancer survival rate from 20% to more than 80% since it opened more than 50 years ago. And St. Jude's mission is to not stop until no child dies from cancer. So you can support St. Jude's life-saving mission of finding cures and saving children during Childhood Cancer Awareness Month by going to stjude.org/relay. That is stjude.org/relay to donate now. And we're doing some fun stuff this year. We've really upped our game. So we've mentioned already that we're doing the podcast-a-thon from 2 to 8 p.m. Eastern on Friday, September 18th at twitch.tv/relayfm. But when you're on our donation page, you'll see that we've put in a bunch of milestones this year. And when we hit the milestones, we're going to be doing special streams or releasing videos. So the first one that we're going to hit is when we hit $25,000, which I think will happen at some point today. Stephen is going to release a video that he's done called Identifying Laptops by Feel. Didn't he do, I think it was dongles that he did this with a while ago. He was blindfolded.
He likes to touch electronics.
When he has a blindfold and he has his wife involved. It's kind of strange that he wants to show his thing to the world, but like, you know, you do you, my friend. You know, if that's what you want to do, then you go for it. But that's Stephen's special thing that he gets to share with all of us.
We all have ours.
Sure. We all have our thing. And oh boy! So he's done one about laptops. I have watched the video already, and he's going to release that on the 512 Pixels YouTube channel when we pass that first milestone. And then we have a bunch of other streams that we're going to do. The next one after that is going to be something that I'm going to do. So when we hit $30,000 raised, I'm going to do a Twitch stream showing my iPad setup, kind of like these are the apps that I use, this is how I have them arranged, and do a kind of Q&A like thing on that. So that's the first thing. When we hit $70,000, Stephen is going to live stream installing his Mac Pro wheels that he bought.
So he did buy them.
He did buy them, and he's not putting them on his Mac Pro until we hit $70,000. And when we do hit it, he's going to live stream it.
So we need to hit.
We must.
I mean, it must happen at this point.
And when we hit 100,000, we're going to try and play Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Okay.
Which is the thing these days, right?
Which is the thing these days.
Flight Simulator. And then these are some things that we're doing when we hit certain milestones, but we're also going to be doing some streams for timed events as well. So this Friday, so that's going to be August 28th at 11 a.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/RelayFM. Stephen and myself are going to be playing Untitled Goose Game for your enjoyment, so you can check that out there. So this is the theme of September, right? We're raising money and we're having fun while we do it. So we're going to be doing loads of stuff as we get up towards the podcastathon itself on September 18th. So once again, go to stjude.org/relay to donate, and we'll be very, very thankful for that. I have the pleasure of being a part of many text threads and channels with you.
Okay.
And in one of them today, you said that you were going to be going back to Apple Arcade.
They got me again. And I think I told you this a while ago. Like, if once they have that game that I really want to play, I guess at that point I will be forced to subscribe again. Well, it looks like that game is finally almost upon us, coming out tomorrow, I think, on Apple Arcade. The game is The Last Campfire. So The Last Campfire is a joint collaboration, I guess, from Hello Games, and so the makers of No Man's Sky, obviously, and the developers of Lost Winds. Lost Winds was a really, really good and beautiful and fun platform game that came out on the Wii years ago, and then you can also find it on PC, on Steam. Not much is known about The Last Campfire, except that it looks fantastic, and I love the music, I love the atmosphere. When I saw the trailer, I believe last year, I fell in love with the look and the feel, and yes, again, the atmosphere of this game immediately. It's a title that I really want to play. I think it lends itself very well to being played on an iPad Pro. It's also coming to PlayStation 4 and Switch and Xbox. But I think this is the kind of game that I really want to play on an iPad. Holding the display in front of me, with these kinds of graphics. Yeah. So this is coming out tomorrow on Apple Arcade. These are like some top tier developers working on this game. And it's my main point, I guess. This is the kind of game that I want to see more from Apple Arcade, as we discussed a few months ago. Not another 2D platform game, not another puzzle game, not another co-op multiplayer sports-like game. This is exactly what I want to have on my iPad Pro with Apple Arcade. So I'm gonna subscribe again. While I'm at it, I guess I will check out some of the other new releases that I have missed lately. I think there's another what's it called, Samurai Jack game that came out last week on Apple Arcade. So yeah, I'll give it another try, and then I guess I'll see what happens if they do announce a bundle for Apple services, maybe next month, maybe in October, whenever that is. If they do announce a bundle, I will get the bundle anyway. So, but I really want to play this one. It looks beautiful. I love the developers behind this. So yeah, they got me again with this one. We'll see if I find anything else worth playing.
Yeah, Samurai Jack is apparently the new one. There's also, for people that like it, there's a Game of Thrones game that's meant to be pretty good, but I wouldn't know because I don't understand Game of Thrones.
Yeah. I really wish that I could. I know that it's never going to happen, but you know the game that everybody's playing on PlayStation these days, Fall Guys?
Fall Guys, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of want to play that one.
I want to play it too. I haven't yet, but it's been on my mind to play it.
Yeah.
Maybe I could actually maybe add that into it for a stream for some point. Actually, I'm gonna.
Can you play
that
together
down.
with like another friend?
I don't know.
Yeah, because it's like I've seen some so some of the Twitch streamers that I follow that play competitive Pokemon. They do like to play other things as well, and I've seen some people play Fall Guys lately, and it looks very fun and messy and colorful, which is exactly what I want. Like I'm not shooting people for a change, which is nice.
Nope.
It's like cute.
It's a battle royale game. Which is just an obstacle course.
Yes, and it looks very fun, and I love the design of the little creatures. So yeah, that one I'm probably gonna play as well.
I saw a headline today that it's like the most downloaded PS Plus game of all time.
Yeah, which is wild because it came out like a month ago, maybe
on
less. I know
PS
that
Plus, it's been out for a while. This was like one of those things that was really interesting. I'd never heard of this game, and then a games journalist that I follow, I don't remember who it was, but I follow a bunch of game journalists, was like, this game is coming out on PS Plus. It's going to take over the world because it's going to be free to people on PlayStation. And it immediately happened, right? Like within a couple of days, it was all I was seeing. And what I love is it's from like I think a relatively small developer.
Mediatonic, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? I think Shahid told us years ago that this was like a legit studio, that they were working on some crazy things.
Maybe that's
and once
it.
again, he was right. So,
as always, if you don't know who Shahid is, you should. Shahid Amal-Khamad is our co-host on Remaster, which is our monthly video game show that the three of us do here on Relay FM. If you don't listen to it, you should check it out. The last episode was a history of the PlayStation Portable, or the PSP, as you may know. You can go and listen to that. If you like hearing us talk about video games, that's the place to go to get it. Talking about video games.
Oh, God. Yeah.
I'm happy you're back this week. Because you thought you could get away with it, but no, we're going to talk about Epic. I want to give a very quick update as to where we are today from where we were last week. So Apple threatened to pull Epic's developer accounts from the App Store. Basically, anything Epic related was going to be kicked out on Friday, August 28th, at the end of this week. Epic filed a secondary legal thing, basically a restraining order on that. So that was that. Then, side note, Apple held up the WordPress iOS app, wanting them to put IAP for WordPress.com accounts into the WordPress application. This got out to the press. Then Apple changed course and apologized. Then we go back to Epic. Epic wins a temporary restraining order in court to stop Apple from terminating their developer account regarding the Unreal Engine. This is from the lawsuit. It was Judge Yvonne Gonzalez Rogers said, Epic Games and Apple are at liberty to litigate against each other, but their dispute should not create havoc to bystanders, which I think is an excellent judgment to make. In the same ruling, Judge Gonzalez Rogers also ruled that Apple does not need to reinstate Fortnite to the App Store, which is another thing that Epic were asking for with the restraining order, saying, quote, the current predicament appears of Epic's own making, which is also completely valid, right? Like, Epic made this happen to themselves, right? Like they knew they broke the rules, but there's still more to come. So what we've got here is just a temporary order. So Epic and Apple will now create kind of like larger cases to work out if this is going to be a permanent order that Apple can't get rid of Epic's developer account related to the Unreal Engine. This is going to be heard in September 28th. The original case that Epic filed, so that, like, going back to like when they actually had the lawsuit that they hit on that day when they got kicked out of the store, that could take like a year before that's heard in court because it's like a much, much bigger case. Now, so the thing is, right, so on Friday, the Fortnite developer account could and probably will be kicked out of the store, but it doesn't really make a difference at this point because Epic is not going to, they're clearly not going to update the application. Like they're just going to sit on this for a while, would be my assumption.
Yeah.
And if we can, our assumptions, I think we are correct now in our assumption of like, if they get rid of the developer account, it doesn't get rid of the game for people, which was, it's just like a question mark because this kind of stuff doesn't happen very much. But this isn't going to, for the time being, or probably at all, honestly, considering this initial ruling, going to affect the Unreal Engine account. So Apple can't get rid of all of Epic's stuff. And, to kind of paraphrase the case a little bit, it's like, it's a little bit spiteful. Like, it's retaliatory. Like, that was the word in that the judge used, is that it was retaliatory on Apple's part to kind of want to get rid of all of it. Seemed a bit much, right? They have multiple developer accounts that things are related to. And the new season of Fortnite starts this weekend, and it's not going to be on iOS or the Mac. So I think there is a little bit there from Epic's part that they're just deciding not to bring it to the Mac. But it's within their right? Same reason as it's within Apple's right to say get out of the store. It's within Epic's right to say, fine, your platform's not going to benefit from our content. So that's kind of where we are. I've had a lot to say about this on this show and other shows, but I wanted to hear your thoughts because I don't really think you've expressed them anywhere yet.
Yeah. So I just want to say up front that I tend to be in my life, I tend to be a person that follows the rules. However, I also think that in extreme situations, for the rules to change, you got to break the rules willingly. It's something that I firmly believe. And I have very complicated thoughts on this whole saga, this whole thing. And I would like to start by discussing some of the very basic ideas and very basic themes. Like, I don't want to get into the technicalities of Fortnite, can it be re-downloaded? Like, some basic ideas that I have. So the first one that I would like to address is this idea that Epic is going after Apple, they're suing Apple. And some people are saying, well, why didn't you sue also Sony and Nintendo and console makers? After all, iOS devices are consoles. And I kept first when I first saw these comments, I thought that people were joking. Then I saw that they were actually serious about it, comparing iOS devices to consoles. And that to me is, well, it's the wrong perspective, I will say. I will use this expression. And that's because there's a fundamental difference between a PlayStation and an iPhone. There's a fundamental difference between an Xbox and an iPad, which is you buy an Xbox and you buy a PlayStation, and let's face it, you're going to buy them to put them under a TV and play video games. Whereas an iPhone is a computer and an iPad is a computer. And I don't think nobody needs to be educated on the differences between a console and a computer, right? We all know them. This to me feels like a very convenient argument to make right now. Because until a few months ago, until a few years ago, when it was convenient to say so, iPhones were computers.
Yeah.
Right?
It's also worth noting that the argument that John Gruber and others are making about console has included gaming consoles, but also like the quote-unquote term of console, meaning like that it is like a closed thing, or like that it is a heavily controlled thing. But ultimately,
can you offer other examples of a closed computer that is not an iPhone?
No.
See, that's the problem.
I'm sure
right?
there are examples, and maybe you need a lot of computer history to get them. But the point that I'm making, like the point I'm wanting to get to here is like, I am agreeing with you in what you're saying, what you're about to say. The iOS devices are computers. They are computers.
It was convenient to call them computers when it was about, for example, comparing the number of Windows PCs sold and say, well, Apple is selling more computers if you count iPhones and iPads than the industry is selling PCs. So it feels to me like sometimes it's convenient to call them computers and other times it's not, which I think it's kind of funny and interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
to
Apple
observe.
calls the iPad a computer. They all the time they call it a computer. They call it a personal computer.
They do. And a console, so let's say, well, some people are saying, well, we don't mean a console in the sense of a gaming console. Of course, an iPhone and an iPad are not gaming consoles. We mean it in the sense of a closed platform. And that's really my issue right now. So it's perfectly in Apple's right to say, well, this is a closed platform and we get to decide which kind of apps, which kind of software it runs. And to me, I think, and this is basically like some people will say, well, it's Apple Store. They make their own rules and either you follow the rules or you don't. And we don't care. If you don't want to follow them, you're going to get kicked out of the store. And I get it, right? I get it. But what I'm asking, so my basic question is this a great situation to be in? Like, I get it. Yes, it's let's call it a console, right? In the sense of a closed computer. But is it really something that you like? Like, do you think this is really a great situation to be in? Because and I guess this is also another key problem. Some people, myself included, would argue that at this point, an iPhone should be considered an essential utility, right?
Yes, without a shadow of a doubt. Smartphones in general, but yes.
Smartphones in general, and that includes the iPhone. And you can, I'm no lawyer, I'm no antitrust historian, but I've been doing some reading on the side, and from what I understand, there's this idea of the essential facility doctrine, right? Which is the idea that some utilities are considered essential to the public, to the market, and the theory goes that sometimes a monopolist creates these bottlenecks that basically prevent competitors from entering the market. And so you have these essential utilities that are essential to people. However, there can be no competition around them. And I would argue that an iPhone falls under that, categorization.
Well, I think if maybe to try and expand out a little more. So like one of the key ones that's always spoken about here is like the railroads, right? So like if you imagine that the iPhone is the train tracks and the apps are the trains. And if the company that owns the train track can decide which trains run on the train tracks, it kind of stops the ability for there to be other people involved, right?
Yeah,
and all
trains.
of this stuff, exactly, all of this stuff gets way more complicated because Apple makes apps now in many of the areas that they're stopping their competitors from being in. That's what makes this whole thing as bad as it is. If Apple wasn't in a lot of these businesses, whilst it still wouldn't be great, you can kind of say like, they're trying to do their store the way they want to do it and blah, blah, blah. But like they are creating situations where by the fact that they are the way they are with the App Store, it allows them to have a competitive advantage. Whether they're doing it for that reason or not, it allows them to have that ability.
Yeah. So you look at the App Store, right? And when you consider the conflict of interest that there is between, say, something like Apple Arcade and Microsoft wanting to bring something like Game Pass to the App Store, it's or Apple Music and Spotify. What's the last time that you saw Apple, on the App Store, advertise the latest update to Spotify? And of course they won't, because they have their own, not a litigation going, but Spotify complaining publicly about Apple, so they're never gonna do it. But basically, here's what I believe. I believe an iPhone is in 2020, well over a decade into its life, should be considered an iPhone, just like any other smartphone, an essential utility to everyday life. Unlike a PlayStation or a Nintendo Switch or whatever. And because it is an essential utility, I believe it is so important to make sure that there can be competition. There can be a diverse set of apps and software running on the iPhone. Now, I also get it. I understand that the way that Apple designs iOS and iPadOS comes with certain limitations, certain technical limitations for security, for privacy, which I fully respect and endorse personally. But that doesn't stop competition from happening still, because Spotify and Epic and Microsoft and Hey and all these other folks, they can make apps, right? Make them run on the iPhone and respect the technical limitations of the sandbox and all the other things that Apple likes them to do. But the problem here is that we are now in the situation where developers, they either have to pay up a 30% fee, or they, if they want to do anything that's an alternative to that, they can't. And the risk of getting kicked out of the App Store.
And the big thing today is like, for what?
For what?
What's the fee for?
Like, I believe that 30% is too high.
It's just to have the ability to be on the platform. It's rent. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And if it wasn't too high, then why some companies, like Amazon, for example, get a special deal, right? If it wasn't too high, they wouldn't be getting a special deal. But if they're getting a special
there'd
deal...
be no deal to give, right?
There'd be no special qualifier to put in front of it. Nothing. Like, when everything is fair, there's no specialty about it. Like, it's just what it is.
That's a very good point.
And
yeah, like, why would you use it as a bargaining chip? Which is what they used when they wanted things done by Amazon.
If you're offering me a deal, it means that there's something that isn't a deal for me. And so you're offering me a different version of the same thing. Mm-hmm. That is the definition of let's make a deal. Mm-hmm. So my base, I like to think about all this stuff in very simple terms, right? There's lawyers, it's complicated, I get it. But here's my basic question for you and everybody else. If you're Apple in this situation, is this good for you?
I can't understand how this is still happening at this point. Like, I cannot fathom it.
Is this a great situation to be in? Like, no matter if you say, well, technically we are right and the law is behind us and we're going to win in court. Okay, fine. But like, looking at it from the outside, from a developer's perspective, from a consumer's perspective, is this a great thing to do?
Yeah.
And I don't think it is.
No, it's not. Like, and go ahead and fight Epic if you want to, right? Like, they've done what they've done. You can be happy about that or unhappy about that, whatever. But why keep doing this? Like, why keep trying to shake developers down, right? Like,
yeah.
This WordPress thing, it was something that Apple was progressing until the spotlight got turned back on them, and then they're like, whoopsies, sorry, right? Mm-hmm. Like, every couple of days, there is a new one of these stories, right? Like, it keeps happening. I was thinking today when preparing for this show, I think it feels pretty clear that something changed internally at Apple in June of this year.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like, that Hey got caught up in and went public with it, which then kind of outed all these other companies that were, that have been having these problems, or like you're hearing first, second, third hand from someone that they've had an app held up. Like, it seems like something changed, and now Apple really wants this money. They want their in-app purchase money more than ever. I don't know why they've made that change, and I don't know why they are so clearly sticking to it. And if the result of all of this is not some kind of change in the rules, they're setting themselves up for I think, a bad few years at this point. And one of the reasons that I was thinking about the fact that this stuff has changed, or at least Apple's thinking has changed, is there have been problems like this in the past, right? But it was the summer of this year where they started using this wording of like, you've had a free app on the store for so long and you've been using all our tools and you haven't contributed towards the App Store. And they keep bringing this out, right? They keep bringing it out for every case.
I'm paying you a fee. It's well within my rights to not pay you anything else because you make it possible for me to do so.
But like they keep, every time there's one of these situations, they keep bringing this wording out, right? Like,
yeah, I know. Yeah.
And so this was clearly some kind of tone change.
Mm-hmm.
And now they keep bringing it up all the time. And it's disconcerting, I think.
Couple more things.
Mm-hmm.
So the big issue here, of course, is that Apple doesn't allow developers to offer their own payment systems. And I see a lot of people saying, well, this is because Apple wants to keep the security of the platform and they don't want you to submit your payment information elsewhere and they want you to use the secure in-app purchase system. Now, I do agree that in-app purchases are potentially more secure and I will tell you more comfortable to use than other things, right? Because all my info is already on file and everything else. But like all other types of computers, they let you run games and apps that you can just pay for stuff anywhere. Like there's like this thing called e-commerce, which is like an entire industry that's been around for like 30 years and it's fine and people buy stuff online all the time. Like I don't get like this security scare that some people will like you to convince that it's real. Yes, it's real. Some people get their credit cards, stolen and cloned and whatever, but like that happens in everyday life as well. Like it's not like Apple is sort of just suddenly saving you from this thing called purchasing goods online. Like people do it all the time. It's not something that doesn't exist outside of the App Store. And second thing, I think it's kind of funny how a lot of people appreciate the Mac because in addition to the App Store, it lets you install apps from outside sources.
Yeah.
And this feature of the Mac Gatekeeper is often celebrated as one of the most important advantages over iOS and iPadOS. And so sometimes that feature is great, but now when it comes to Apple and Epic, it's not. And I don't get this double standard because either you think it's a great feature to have, or you don't think it is, or you think it's only convenient to have. It's only great to have when it's convenient to think so.
Yeah, I think it's about time that the Mac became a console.
So exactly. So if you follow that logic, either the Mac needs to become a console, or Gatekeeper needs to come to iOS, which would be about time, right?
You think about time. That's what you say on that. Like
what?
That's something you want. You want to
absolutely
install
yes,
applications from
absolutely
OS.
yes. And 2 weeks ago, when the lawsuit came out, like I started tweeting about like the debate. Like this is my basic, my ultimate conclusion is why doesn't Gatekeeper exist on iOS? Like it would solve so many problems, and all of this would just go away, and you would have a secure, if you care about security, you would have a secure system that lets you install apps, that lets Apple revoke those apps. And we can argue about that and whether that's fair. We can talk about Gatekeeper, but that's another topic. But that would solve a lot of problems, right? Just like it's a popular and widely used solution on the Mac, made and controlled by Apple, it would exist on iOS and iPadOS as well. And then I started so I tweeted that, and then I started reading the lawsuit, and sure enough, which by the way, the first few pages of the lawsuit, if you haven't read those, I highly recommend you do, because I really think that Apple's lawyers, that Epic's lawyers, they make a really cogent and well thought out case.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people say that like that is purposeful. So this is not how lawsuits are typically written. To be so clear. And the thinking is because they want people to read it, like me and you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And understand it.
Sure enough, one of their points is Apple already makes a solution for their other computers, which is called Gatekeeper, that lets you install apps from other sources. And we ask that this kind of feature should also exist on iOS and iPadOS. And like you can get defensive about this whole thing, right? And if you like Apple, we all like Apple. We all buy, if you listen to the show.
We love the company.
We love the company.
Yes.
We love the company. I love my iPhone. I love my iPad. I mean, it's, it made my career possible.
Yeah.
But some things, personally, I feel like some things you gotta feel that they're not right. And I don't feel like this whole saga it doesn't feel right for Apple to go after all these developers and to take this stance on the whole thing. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like it's the best thing for consumers to do. Like, why can I not play Fortnite? Because Epic wanted me to pay through their own store, and you got upset because then you don't get 30%. Well, now what? Now you got millions of people upset because they don't get to play Fortnite on their iPhones. What's that? What's the preferable situation? What do you think? Getting, that cut from Epic, or now having millions of kids upset and angry because their iPhone doesn't get Fortnite anymore? It does feel like a very short-sighted stance to me. And the right thing to do would just to treat iPhones and iPads like computers with the same respect and the same open mind that you treat Macs, and stop with this argument that iPhones and iPads are consoles. It doesn't really make much sense. They are computers. They are essential utilities for people who use them as their primary devices for communications, for phone calls, for emergencies, for work, for entertainment, for all kinds of things, in a way that even exceeds what people use regular computers these days. Some people use a lot of people use their iPhones and iPads with more and with much more sensitive and important data than they use their laptops. And yet the laptops get more freedom and more flexibility. And I don't really get it. And I think it's time for this to change. And I think if time will not change this, and if the company itself will not change it, then governments will. And I think it'll come to that eventually.
In Ben Thompson's free article that went up yesterday called Rethinking the App Store Architecture, he linked to a tweet from Francisco Tomalski, who was on the original iPhone team working on mobile Safari. And Francisco says something which kind of blew my mind a little bit. Apple's iOS rules would not have allowed for the invention of the web browser.
Yeah.
And then the follow-up part of that is think of all the amazing ideas that haven't gotten a chance to be invented because they aren't allowed on mobile devices. Mosaic happened less than 10 years after the Macintosh. We very well could have had a browser caliber level invention by now. Yeah. I mean, it's stretching things to to quite a degree, but it's a fantastic point that an app like Safari, if Safari if web browsers didn't exist, you wouldn't be able to have that on iOS. And think of all of everything, right? Look, we all have our own opinions on this, and my overriding opinion, because really there are multiple things going on here, not more than two. You've got the Epic thing, but you've also got should Apple be allowed to say which applications can even run on the phone? And if you agree that they can, should they be able to take 30% of every transaction, right? And these are all of the different questions. These are going to keep coming up. If you're bored of this topic, you're in for a long 6 months, right? Because this is the thing now. This is the thing where everyone's going to keep talking about. It was keyboards for a while. We've got this. I think there is no argument that this is much more important than keyboards. But nevertheless, here we are. But my feeling, the thing that I keep coming back to is I do not believe that Apple has the right to tell all these businesses how to do business. That's my feeling. And I just don't think that they have or should have the power to be able to dictate terms to every company on the planet. So, nevertheless, here we are.
I agree with it, and it's a shame to think about all the ideas and all the apps that could have existed, that could exist without these rules. And again, as far as the Apple community goes, I think the arguing that sometimes iPhones are computers, but now they are consoles, I think it's kind of funny, and I think it's a fascinating phenomenon, really.
Mm-hmm.
I think they are computers. They should be treated like computers. They already are treated as such by us, but not by the company that makes them, but only when it's convenient to do so. This is just, I look at this from the outside, and I just think that it's a sad story. Like the most, arguably, one of the most popular video games on the planet cannot run on the iPhone right now, cannot be downloaded on the iPhone. And I just think it's sad because of what? Because of being able to purchase game stuff inside the game without using in-app purchases. Like that, you look at it from the outside, you try to explain that to a friend who doesn't follow Apple blogs and podcasts, and they're going to tell you, but why though?
The game that was already the most popular game in the world before they launched the iOS version.
Yes.
But for some reason, Apple now believes that they have an entitlement to 30% of every transaction that goes through the system.
Because Epic was able to distribute the binary for that game through the App Store. I mean, thanks. Sure, that entitles you to 30%. I just think this is sad, and it doesn't feel right. Some things you get a feel for. This doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right that Apple is going after Hey and WordPress and all the other developers that don't have the resources or the following to speak out and to actually say, this is what App Review told me, right? So many are just afraid and scared of, the retaliatory behavior that may occur later. And they never tell you the things that happen behind the scenes. And if you're Apple, and if you are a developer evangelist, if you work on this stuff, if you manage the App Store, are you sure you fostered a healthy, competitive, successful environment? Or do you just have a marketplace which is dominated by fear and, by having to follow these rules? Because, these things, they, in the long term, they usually end up with somebody else coming onto the scene and saying, hey, we also have a marketplace for you, and we don't have all these problems. Come aboard. And I think it's in your best interest to make sure that you keep your developer community happy and not scared and competitive, right? Mm-hmm. So, I don't know, maybe, this will not be a problem in a month. It will not be a problem in a year. But who knows, maybe in 5 years, maybe in 10 years, this will turn out to be a big mistake. I don't know. I just feel like if you're managing a store, you want to make sure that the folks who make stuff for the store are happy, not turning against you. But what do I know? I'm not a lawyer, so.
This episode of Connected is brought to you by Text Expander from our friends at Smile. Text Expander removes the repetition from work so you can focus on what matters most. You can say goodbye to repetitive text entry, spelling and message errors, and trying to remember that right thing to say, because when you use Text Expander, you can say the right thing in just a few keystrokes. It's better than copy and paste, better than scripts and templates, because Text Expander snippets allow you to maximize your time by getting rid of the repetitive things that you're typing while still customizing and personalizing your messages. One thing, I was talking to my sales manager, Carrie, today, and she was telling me about, we have an ad copy, right? Like the one that I'm reading right now, and we have a system that it's put into, which is a web form, and it's got a few fields, and you type in one thing in this field, one thing in this field, and then copy in some text. And Carrie's created these templates that basically she types in a couple of characters, and it fills out the entire field, because one thing you can have Text Expander do is put in a bunch of text, press tab, put in a bunch of text, press tab, put in a bunch of text. You can program all of that kind of stuff into it too. So you can fill out entire text forms from the web in just a couple of clicks or just a couple of keystrokes. Super fantastic. Really, really powerful stuff. And it's one of the many reasons that I love Text Expander, and we use it here as a team at Relay FM every single day. Text Expander can be used in any platform, any app, anywhere that you type. Take your time back and increase your productivity. Connected listeners get 20% off their first year. Just go to textexpander.com/podcast and you can learn about Text Expander right now. Our thanks to Text Expander for their support of this show and Relay FM. Air power.
Okay. We're talking about air power again?
We are talking about air power again. This mostly comes from the fact that Nomad, which is an accessory maker who I believe you are a fan of. I think you have some Nomad products, right?
I do. I have two in my apartment, two wireless Nomad wireless charging pads, and one that I gave to my mom. So she's also using one.
So I think the one that most people have, including you, I think is called the base station, right? Where it's like, or it may at least have been, it's like something like that. Yeah, they have one called the base station, right? Which is a very good looking, like just a pad with like a leather like backing on it, like a cover on it, and you put your devices on it, and it can charge multiple devices at once, right? That's its thing. You can do a couple, and you can put it in a couple of different angles. Well, they have partnered with a company called Aira, A-I-R-A. We'll say Aira because that's probably what they're going for.
Aira, okay.
Who have created a technology called Free Power, and these these two companies have partnered, and they've made the the Nomad Base Station Pro. Now, what's interesting about this product is it's basically what we wanted air power to be. You put your device down and it will charge it wherever you put it on the mat in whatever orientation, and it will take multiple devices at a time, like as many as you can fit on there, basically, like 2 or 3 devices. Apparently, I was watching a video that iJustine made about this. It's really power efficient as well because Qi charging, when you have something on, it's basically the entire mat is like doing its thing, right? But with this Aira technology, it just powers up the area underneath where the device is, which is kind of smart and makes sense, I guess. This product doesn't yet work with the Apple Watch. They don't have one of those little things you can plug in. And also the Apple Watch isn't Qi. But apparently Nomad say they're quote working on a solution for 2021. I don't know what that means. Either A, they're hoping that the Apple Watch goes Qi, or they're going to work out some kind of like add-on like they have with the regular base station. I don't know. So this thing is a partnership, which means that Aira could and will use this technology in other products. But it's a pretty interesting thing. Like it's doing what we wanted air power to do. There was a Bloomberg report about this company and stuff like that in which it was mentioned by Mark Gurman that Apple is actually apparently still working on a less ambitious charger.
Less ambitious, okay.
Than air power.
So less ambitious means you can just place your iPhone and AirPods, but not the Apple Watch. I guess that...
I don't know what it means, you know. Well, so here's the thing. Did you see that article from Mac Rumors? It was
with the photos.
Yeah, it was some screenshots taken from a video from a leaker who apparently got their hands on some prototype hardware for air power.
Yeah,
that looks far too complicated.
That looks wild. It looks scary with all those chips and coils. Like it looks kind of scary. That looks
like
super
when you compare
complex.
So like I've seen some imagery of the inside, like you can see it on the Nomad website actually. The Aira pad looks complicated but nowhere near as scary looking as the inside of this apparent air power.
Like it's just a bunch of coils, right? It's not like a honeycomb of circuits and coils. Like that looks super complex. So less ambitious. I mean, the big problem that Apple faced, I guess, was the promise of placing anywhere and making it work both for Qi devices and the Apple Watch. So something has to give there, right? Either you cannot place devices anywhere on the pad, but you have like precise zones where you can put them, or it doesn't support the Apple Watch. So it's Qi only, and it's essentially something like the Nomad base station, which I'll tell you, it's fine. It does its job. It could support a wider like area, but it's fine once you get used to it. I place my iPhone on it every night and I place my AirPods on it every day. and it's fine. It gets the job done. I feel like a wireless charger, it's not something that you're supposed to love. It's something that it's supposed to work and work easy enough and get out of the way. Like, it's not something that needs to be too fancy or like too complex for its own good. It's supposed to be efficient and convenient and disappear in the background. And so less ambitious. I mean, if they do one that doesn't support the Apple Watch, but as like a standalone watch thing, like my Nomad base station has like a standalone watch charger on the side, and that's fine. I can just place.
It's okay. If Apple made a charger, I would prefer them to just like not do anything with the Apple Watch. Like, just like whatever.
I'll tell you though, it's nice because when you place it down like that, it supports nightstand mode.
I know.
So you can tap the watch and you can see the time at night.
It's like a little like wart on the side of your charger.
It's kind of like that. So I don't know. Do we know if this Era thing has a fan? Remember when I purchased one?
Yeah, the terrifying one with the fan in it.
With the fan, super thick.
It doesn't look like it from their photos. It doesn't seem like it does. And I guess the power efficiency of this one, if it is truly more power efficient, like they say, would mean that maybe it wouldn't need a fan as such because it's not like putting out so much energy like that one that you bought. What was that called? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
It had some crazy name. And it had like the clear top to it. You could get that version as well, where you could look at all the terrifying coils.
What was it called? We talked about it.
We've spoken about it many times. Maybe the Discord will come up with an answer for us. But this base station Pro costs $230.
Okay.
Seems like a lot of money for a charger.
It's not cheap.
So like when I saw it, I was like,
can't you buy a Nintendo Switch with that amount of money?
Yeah, probably. Like when I saw it, like I watched the iJustine video about it as the first thing, and then saw all the articles about it. I was like, oh, I might get one of these, put it in my studio. Like it's like a useful thing. You can throw the occasional thing on there to charge, like whatever. And then I was like, I don't want it $230 a minute. Like that's not. I don't want that. Like. I'll see if people like it and then hope that they have a future product where it's a bit cheaper. Like, I don't want to pay $230 for a charger for my iPhone.
Yeah, but in the Discord, they're saying if it had the Apple logo on it, you would actually get it right away. And that's the issue, right?
I wouldn't.
We're suckers like that.
Because I don't think I would have bought an AirPower mat either. Like, but if Apple made it and it was $230, I still wouldn't buy it because I don't want that type of product so much.
I honestly, I gotta tell you that I would, but there's a reason for that. It's because I know that if I get the Apple version, it's gonna support that kind of system integration that I don't get anywhere else. It's like, why would you buy AirPods over other wireless earbuds that maybe cost even less? And that's exactly the reason why, because with AirPods, I get to use system integrations like Siri, for example, or like now the multi-device pairing and the charging notifications in iOS 14. All that stuff I don't get with third-party wireless earbuds. So that's why sometimes I like to pay more for the Apple version, because that's part of the reason why we love Apple products. It's that kind of integration between different things. But that amount of money for a third-party accessory that does not integrate as well, it's a bit much. So honestly, though, I don't have a lot of feelings about wireless chargers. Like, I feel like AirPower has become one of those things that we remember fondly, only because of its demise and because of the whole saga. Like, we care about AirPower more because of the whole story than the actual product itself. And in fact, I think that most people wouldn't actually care about AirPower. Like, we like to talk about it and to discuss it because it's a fun, weird story. Remember all the times where AirPower could be spotted in like instruction manuals or apple.com. Like, that was fun. It was fun to dig around and predict, is it coming out or not? But actually, it's just a charger, It's not like a new iPhone. It's not like I mean, headphones are more exciting than AirPower.
Where are the headphones? Give me the headphones.
I will tell you, Mike, that just this morning, I came this close. And you cannot see me, but I'm pinching my fingers.
I can imagine you were showing a small, like you were like, have your arms like far apart. I was this close. I imagined it was a finger type thing.
So clicking the buy button on Amazon.com for the new Sony headphones.
I've thought about it too. The MKBHD video really made me want them.
Yeah.
Because they look really good.
I have the previous ones, but I really love two features of the new model, the multi-device pairing and the wear detection. So when you remove your headphones from your ears, music stops.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I really want. Incidentally, that's also something that Apple is rumored to be working on, automatic wear detection. And I saw that these headphones are not available on Amazon Italy, but Amazon.com is shipping to Italy. And I was right there. And then I thought, well, what if the new AirPods Studio come out in like a couple of weeks?
AirPods,
AirPods Studio, whatever. And so I was able to stop myself from doing that. But I may not have the same willpower in a couple of days. We'll see. Or if I have one too many drinks, one dinner. I don't know. I really want them. I really want them. But so far, I'm being a good boy and being patient.
I really want some over-ear headphones made by Apple. I really want those because I love my AirPods Pro so much. And if they can give me that experience with like even better noise cancelling or whatever, like I'm in. Because like here's one of the things that has stopped me with the Sonys is I never liked noise cancellation until I tried the AirPods. Like every other noise cancellation product that I tried made me feel kind of uneasy.
Yeah.
And so like it's very possible that like if Apple's over-ear headphones, if they're more aggressive, like I might not like it. So we'll have to see on that one. But it makes me hesitant. It's like another reason I'm hesitant to get another product in case I end up not liking that, where I feel like I maybe have more of a chance of liking Apple's interpretation on over-ear headphones because they're the only ones that I've ever found comfortable before. So we'll see. But I really want that product.
Yeah. So we haven't heard any new rumors lately, right?
No, it's kind of where we left it. Of like it's a product that's coming this year is what all the rumors say.
Okay.
But who knows anymore, man?
It's gonna be an expensive fall, I guess.
Yeah, like if
phone.
you are as a person going to catch them all, you could be looking at like a wireless charger, some over-ear headphones,
an
iPhone, potentially an iPad Pro, and a new Mac.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Yep.
It's a lot of different things. And I mean, for sure, I will get the charger and the headphones and the phone.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm already staring down at like 2,000 euros at the very least. Fun times.
This is what we do with the money that we saved by not going to the WWDC.
That is a very good excuse that I will reuse at home. Thank you.
I've been thinking about that. Like the money that I had set aside to travel this year, like to go to San Jose, will more than pay for the devices that I buy later on in the year.
Right. You could even argue that you could buy 2 iPhones with that money.
I mean, I don't know why you would need to make that argument, but like you could make that argument.
But it could be made. It's like an argument that could be made.
You could make it, yes. I mean, you could also make the argument you could buy 10 sets of AirPods. Like, these are arguments you can make, but you don't need to make them unless there is a reason that you feel you need 2 iPhones.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Does Adina still leave AirPods randomly around the house?
Everywhere.
Oh, my God.
And she has 2 sets.
You need to do something about it.
I don't know if I told you the story, but Adina lost her AirPods because she lost her bag. And so I am a good husband. And I was like, there's no way that I will let you go back to your old AirPods. Adina is currently listening to the live stream, by the way. So she's now upset in the Discord that I'm telling this story. So I was like, I am a good husband, and I will not allow you to go back to regular AirPods after experiencing AirPods Pro, because we both really value the noise cancellation, because when someone's doing something loud in the house, you can just like tune them out, right? And you're in your own world. So I was like, I will buy you some more AirPods Pro.
Some more?
Another set. I will buy you a plethora of AirPods Pro. So I bought her another pair of AirPods Pro. Then we were out. Basically, she lost her bag in a restaurant, and it was handed in at the restaurant, and she went to get it, and nobody had taken the AirPods out, which I will never understand in my life, why somebody didn't steal the AirPods when they handed it in, but I'm very thankful that they didn't. So she now has 2 pairs of AirPods Pro.
Okay.
But what that means is that there are 2 cases and 4 AirPods that can just find themselves anywhere in the house, just like anywhere at all times. I am not kidding you. I woke up 2 days ago from bed. I sat up and one of her AirPods fell off my stomach. This is the kind of life that I'm living. They're everywhere. They're everywhere in the house.
They're like bugs.
Yeah,
they're AirPods.
I'm like swatting them away from me at all times. They're just like, they can be anywhere at all times. And when we come to the studio, which is where I am now, she brings both sets with her, which I don't fully understand. But I think it's the idea of that because there's no real management of the AirPods Pro, they could have any level of battery life. So if she takes one set, she's going to take both sets, because who knows where they are or what's in what or what combination they are. So
it's just, I am fascinated by this sort of hippie AirPods lifestyle.
Yep.
It's very fascinating to me to just leave them out randomly,
just anywhere they could be.
Having 2 pairs, like it's very interesting behavior. I am sorry, Mike, that you need to waking up to AirPods falling on top of you.
That one was particularly hilarious. So now they're physically on me now. They're not just
raining down.
They're not just around the house. They're everywhere.
AirPods. So I'm using. I don't know if I told you. I've been using the Comply foam tips, the official ones, for the past.
I got those and tried them once and wasn't that keen on it.
Okay, interesting. So I am liking them. I've been using them for the past month. Almost. Yeah, it's been about a month. I like them. They do what I expected them to do, but one of them is already kind of sort of falling apart, the foam. And
that was part of what, like, I opened them, I tried them, and I immediately thought, these are going to get incredibly gross, incredibly fast, and I don't think I want that in my life.
Yeah, I've been I've been taking good care of them. I've been cleaning them every day. I mean, I have other foam tips on my other in-ear headbud. What's it called? The Sony one. Yeah.
Oh, your wild Sony ones, right?
Yeah, the in-ear Sony earbuds, which are like not earbuds. But anyway,
Are they the balanced ones?
So those are the headphones, but I also have the balanced earbuds.
Right.
It's like, yeah, they're made of silver. It's like a whole thing. Anyway, I do know my way around the foam tip, is what I'm saying. And these ones for the AirPods Pro, they are deteriorating faster than usual compared to other foam tips. So I don't know. Maybe it's the taking them out of the case every day that doesn't help, with the friction and everything. I don't know. But I like them, which is a shame.
Well, I mean, it makes sense, though, that a foam would degrade faster than a silicone rubber.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think also the fact that you touch AirPods a lot, right? When you take them out of the case, put them back into the case. Like they are, I don't know, they just feel like an object that goes through more friction than normal. And because of that, I feel the foam is degrading more quickly than usual because of that. Because I am managing them more, I guess. I don't know. But I like them. So what I will probably end up doing is continuing to buy more sets over time, because I do prefer the way that they fit my ears better than the silicone ones.
Well,
So
I have some
probably
extra sets if you want them. I just sent them to you.
Are they used?
No.
Okay.
No, because I also bought the wrong size at first and then bought the right size.
Yes, you do these things.
But never used the right size
You do these things.
They're just in the boxes.
Otherwise, I will just get a Comply subscription. I don't know. Is there something like Club Comply that I can subscribe to and get my...
You should contact them about that.
I will become a happy subscriber. But yeah, I've been using them. However, I don't leave them around the house. I'll tell you that much. That I don't do.
Because you're a civilized individual. This episode is brought to you by Pingdom from SolarWinds. While you've been listening to this podcast, how would you know if your website had gone down? Would you know if your customers couldn't click that buy now button or access your content? You could stumble across this problem by luck. Somebody could send you an email. You could maybe get a text or a tweet. That's no good. You want a reliable system. You want something that's going to tell you when everything's running smoothly on your website, and more importantly, when it isn't. You need Pingdom. Pingdom detect more than 400,000 outages every single day across the web. They help keep your sites and the sites that you love online. It doesn't matter if you're a startup or a Fortune 500 company, you want alerts about critical website issues, and Pingdom will also let you customize how you're alerted and who is alerted depending on the severity of an outage, so the right person and the right team can get to work to fix the issue if there is one. Plus, Pingdom will also track and analyze your website's load time, and can send you reports on that as well, so you can know how well your website is fared on a weekly basis. I really like getting those reports from Pingdom for the Relay FM website. If you have a site of any size, you need Pingdom. They have a no-fuss approach to get started. All you need to do is give them the URL that you want to monitor, and they'll take care of everything else. Go to pingdom.com/relayfm right now for a 14-day free trial with no credit card required. Then when you sign up, use the code CONNECTED at checkout to get a huge 30% off your first invoice. Our thanks to Pingdom from SolarWinds for their support of this show and Relay FM. So, surprise, Beta 6 of iOS 14 dropped, I think it was yesterday. But we only had Beta 5 last week. That was a surprise to me.
Well, is it a surprise, though?
Well, it was to me. I mean, you can give me your statistics and your information that you have, but I was at least surprised.
I have been doing my research, and here I am bringing you hot facts from the internet. Michael. So obviously, because of the review that I'm writing, as like every year, I need to get a sense of where we're at in terms of schedule and beta releases. So while I was at the beach, I did this very useful research on previous schedules and beta releases for older versions of iOS. And specifically, I took a look at last year and the year before as a sort of point of reference. So today, so right now in 2020, we are basically almost 20 days, 18 days to be exact. We're tracking 18 days behind last year's beta schedule. Not a surprise if you consider that WWDC was also almost 20 days later than usual this time. So, for example, so last year, iOS 13, beta 5 was the last one to come out after 2 weeks since the previous beta. In 2019, iOS 13 beta 6 came out a week after beta 5. It was the first beta to switch to the weekly release schedule, and it came out on, I believe, August 7th, 2019. So I was taking a look at this year's calendar, and I thought, I have a pretty good feeling that they're gonna release beta 6 today. And if they do, this is gonna be the one that switches to a weekly release cycle.
Where do you have this recorded?
So, well, there's this thing called Google, first of all, that lets you Google old articles. But no, seriously, there's this excellent, really, really, really excellent website made by good friend Will Haynes, thinkybits.com. Will put together years ago a page called iOS version release date history.
Nice.
It's very nice. And you can see, here's the other hot fact for you, Mike. In recent years, all major new versions, so the 0.0 version of iOS, with the exception of iOS 10, but we all know that iOS 10 was boring, all of them...
Do we? Is that a thing we all know?
Come on, we all know it.
What was so boring about it?
Exactly. You don't even remember.
No, like, what? Okay, but like, all right. What did, okay, I get your point. All right, fine.
I mean, it was okay, but it was, the iMessage App Store, that kind of stuff.
Oh, was that the Apple Music year?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Drake
that one was
on
a
stage.
disaster. Yeah, that was a bad
So,
year.
here's the number that you're seeking. All recent versions of iOS have been in beta for at least 100 days. Okay? Beta for at least 100 days before the GM release. And if you consider the WWDC was on June 22nd, 2020, 100 days from that date would be, go take a look, Wednesday, September 30th. So I've been writing, and I really hope I'm right, because otherwise, honestly, I'm screwed. I've been writing with the assumption that we will see a GM at the very least toward the end of September.
So here's I want to throw a Mike-shaped spanner into the works here.
Mm-hmm.
This is presuming that the life cycle is tied to WWDC and not just the calendar, right?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. This is presuming that.
And I would expect we're probably going to be somewhere in the middle of those two dates. That's what I would assume.
Presuming that just because everything is late this year.
Yeah, so things are late, but it doesn't necessarily, but it doesn't mean that Apple started the process of refining 14 the day after WWDC, right? Like they may have been doing it from the same time that they always would, just WWDC was late.
Sure. But I'm here to tell you that if they launch iOS 14 in mid-September, I will not be ready. So
and the reason you're not ready is because you started late, right? Like that's the reason. Okay.
Yes. Because because unlike Apple, I didn't have access to iOS 14 before WWDC.
Cowards.
So yeah, I mean, come on, jeez.
Cowards.
Not giving me that sweet leaked version. Anyway, yeah. So I would hope / I would presume that the GM we're gonna see toward the end of September, and for release in the first 2 weeks of October. Mm-hmm. And now, it would this theory would go quite well with the fact that we know Apple said the new iPhones will come out a few weeks later than usual. I will tell you that I've been discussing this with my girlfriend and my friends. Like I let them into the conversation on this stuff. Like, what do you think a few weeks means? Because a few weeks to me is more than a couple, but it's less than a month, right? I think it works the same way in both English and Italian. Like, to me, a few weeks, it's not 2. It could be 3 or 4, but no more than 4. And if you consider that a few weeks for the new phones would be like what? Add 3 weeks to mid-September, that would be, in fact, something like October 7 or October 10. So, I don't know. But this is the schedule that I have in mind. When you consider all these numbers, and the things that Apple said, that the phones would come out a few weeks, again, not a couple, not months, but a few weeks later than usual, I think everything would line up quite nicely for things happening in the first 2 weeks of October. Now, all of this could be wrong, right? And I would be screwed big time. But again, it's something that over the course of the summer, I've come to accept. Like, this is my schedule, right? I was able to start testing iOS on June 22nd, not on June 5th or something. And this is how much it takes me to work on this stuff.
Mm.
So, yeah. So I assume we're going to get beta 7 next week. If we don't get beta 7 next week, that is going to be a very good sign. if there's gonna be like 2 weeks between beta 6 and 7. I don't think it'll be the case. I think from now on, we are going to continue seeing weekly beta releases. And I mean, personally, like if I would be Apple, I wouldn't rush this, especially considering the mess that the iOS 13 rollout was last year. So honestly, I see no reason to put this out any earlier than necessary. But it's also in my own personal interest. So
You're
I may be biased.
ever so slightly biased.
I am, yes, to an extent, but also you cannot deny that I make a good point.
I don't want to deny it, even if, like... I don't want to deny it, but I also don't want to, in case you get angry at me, if I was to deny it.
No, I will not get... Like, I have come to terms with the reality that if my timeline is incorrect... I will not be ready. And it's just what it is. As they say, it is what it is. And yeah. So. But I really think I'm right also.
Okay, good.
Yes.
There are a couple of... real-time follow-up. We passed $25,000 raised for St. Jude,
nice.
Which is fantastic. Thank you so much to everybody that continues to donate at stjude.org/relay. So now in the show notes at this point in the episode will be the video of Stephen identifying laptops by feel with the help of Mary Hackett, providing the laptops for him to feel.
Honey, get the blindfold. We're going to touch some computers. Wow. That's what Steven does.
Like that's an actual conversation that has to happen in the house, right?
Exactly in these terms.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is amazing to think about.
Really, it's wild that he would say it that way, but that is the way he says it.
That is literally what happened. I think.
Verbatim, 100% the way it was said. Honey, get the blindfold. We're going to touch some computers. There are a couple of things that I noted from various articles about things that have been added in this beta. One of them, which was interesting, and it's kind of weird when you see this stuff. It's like, why is this here and why now? A shortcut to switch Apple TV user account.
Yes. Oh, well, I'm making fun of it, but I actually did have to do this myself manually yesterday.
Useful. I mean, like, I can imagine this slotting quite nicely into like a evening shortcut or a morning shortcut to go between like kids and adults content, like on the Apple TV. So.
Yeah. You know what my other account was named? It's very easy to guess. On the Apple TV.
Well, you had two accounts. One of them is Federico.
And the other?
I don't know.
Imagine how the system would name it by default.
Oh, like...
Federico parenthesis 1.
Oh my God.
It's like current user Federico. It's like, because I have the tvOS beta now, right? And you get you get a notification when you wake up the TV in the upper right corner of the TV. You get an alert that gives you like sort of like a welcome and tells you the user, the profile that you're currently logged in as.
Yeah.
And it kept saying, "Welcome, Federico 1." It's like, wow.
You're the one.
Why the one? And then I realized, it probably messed up with my accounts because I have an Italian account and an American account. And that was exactly what it was. So now I can use the shortcut to switch between my accounts.
But do you want to switch? Oh, you need to switch between them to get your Italian bought content and your American bought content, right?
Yeah, sometimes. Okay. Sometimes I do need to do that.
Also, if you remember in the last beta, they added so on the time picker, they added the ability to swipe up and down to use the kind of old style navigation for the time picker, but to use the old style in the new way, basically. Mm-hmm. And they've now added a kind of visual indicator to show that there are numbers above and below the time picker. I think this is a really nice, and they've landed on, I think, a really nice middle ground between these two.
It's very nice, and they have the color stroke around it, which I think it's a really nice touch. And of course, it takes on the accent color of the app that you're using. So it's like orange in the clock app, and it's red in calendar. So really, really nicely done. I think this is a very nice middle ground compared to the previous one. Really nicely done. I also saw that this must be like a WebKit thing. But now, if you're on a website that uses a date picker, you don't see the web date picker anymore, but you see the native iOS date picker. Sort of like when you upload a photo and you get the custom iOS
That's
picker.
good, actually, because a lot of the web-based date pickers, they like scroll beneath the keyboard.
Yeah, they're awful.
They're always
awful.
such a pain.
Yes. And I saw that now it like pops up in the middle of the screen and you can actually pick a date. It's very nicely done. The date picker it has really grown on me.
It's one of my favorite things about iOS 14, without a shadow of a doubt. Because I can tap on the date and do and I just type in the time. I like to do that.
And you can switch months with the arrows. Really well.
It's
well
so
done.
good, especially for using date picking in shortcuts.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
You can do all of that anywhere in the system. I really, really like it.
Yeah. Agreed.
Aside from the timeline causing stress and stuff, how is the review coming along? How do you feel about it now compared to how you felt about it in previous years in the same process?
I feel good about it. I think it's fun. Because I've been able to include a lot of third-party examples, especially for widgets and on iPad for the sidebars and the 3-column layouts. I think those parts are super fun to write, to be able to have that mix of technical talk that I do have this time, especially for the 3-column stuff, but it's not too technical. And accompanying that technical discussion is the actual example. So that sort of flow of I'm explaining a technical thing, but then I'm also showing you what that means in practice. That I think is very fun. And the rest of the review, I think it's slightly different than usual in that for the past couple of years, I've always had this big shortcuts chapter with a lot of examples. And I feel like this time it's going to be different because I'm struggling to come out with new shortcuts, because the new shortcuts that I will be making, I will make those, but they will be based on third-party actions, because there aren't that many new system actions that I can take advantage of. And I've already made so many shortcuts with those default actions. Yes, I will make some for the new Apple TV stuff and the new workout stuff. But really, the big changes in shortcuts this year are all about automations.
And also how you interact with the shortcuts.
And also how you use shortcuts, which is what I'm writing about. And so automations I cannot share, because you cannot share automations with a link with somebody else. And I think it's more fun to show here's what a shortcut looked like before and here's what it looks like now. So I think while I'm a bit stressed because of the schedule and because when I think about it, I'm I'm cutting it closer than I will like to be right now. But also, if you subtract those 20 days, sometimes I think about it it's not really August 26th. No. It's still August 6th.
Because August 26th on a usual year, you're approaching the end.
I'm wrapping up, right? Yeah. I'm wrapping up. I'm already going through the editing.
Yeah, you would have the review written by now, and you would be in a sense of all of the chapters are done.
Yeah.
But now it's just a case of asterisks around the ones where things might change still. Exactly. And then let's start editing.
Exactly. So, and I'm not at that point right now. But again, we're also on a different schedule and everything. So sometimes I think about it, and when I look at the date in isolation, I'm like, man, that's super bad. It's already September. But then I think about it, and I'm like, there's no way this launches in 2 weeks. So that makes me feel better. And otherwise, I think it's, as I mentioned, it's going to be a slimmer review, more approachable tone overall, I would say. Lots of examples, which is fun. Lots of design talk, which was challenging, but also fun, because I do love to document the design evolution of iOS. Less about shortcuts, more about design and iPad. And obviously, you may have seen the preview series that we're doing on Mac Stories. Ryan and John and Alex also this week. They're writing about stuff about iOS 14 and iPadOS that I will not include in my review. So it's something that we started doing last year and that we are continuing and expanding on this year, like taking these stories and these apps that maybe I'm not interested in, or maybe I actually cannot use, like maps, and have the team do stories about that during the summer. So stuff like maps and wind down or game controllers, we're going to have standalone stories. I will not have to take care of that in the review.
I assume John will write the game controllers part because John has 100 game controllers.
Oh, it's that easy to guess. Yeah, it will. So there's going to be that. And in my review, I will link back to those stories. But otherwise, like excluding the date, the timeline, schedule stuff, I feel pretty good about it. I think it's good. I think it's got a nice, friendly tone with the technical talk sprinkled on top here and there. And it's a bit unfortunate. I would have liked more. New shortcut actions. That I would have liked. But instead, I also think like this is the year where shortcuts. It's more about the experience of using shortcuts, right? So the stuff that we've been requesting for years, like folders and the sidebar, and more interactivity on the home screen, so the widgets, like I will take, and copy and paste for actions, like I will take that stuff.
Yeah, it's like, look, here's the thing.
It's fine.
There might not be a lot of new actions, but we had wish lists.
Yes.
And we got most of the things on the wish list.
Yes,
like
exactly.
That's about as good as you could hope for.
Exactly.
And honestly, like you say, like a lot of the stuff for that will be in third-party stuff. So you'll have stories to write later on in the year.
Yeah, exactly. So I can write about my shortcuts and the more advanced stuff later. And something that I'm really enjoying doing right now, which I will consider, I guess, as part of the all the things surrounding the review, is these custom widgets that I'm making with Scriptable. So all these custom things that I'm designing, you may have seen like on Twitter, I've shared like a NASA widget that I've made, and I have another for reminders. Like I'm really enjoying this idea of like programming and designing my own widgets with Scriptable. So that's something that I've been doing on the side, and that probably if I make some, and I have some more ideas, right? Like I've been thinking like stuff for Toggle, for example, to have like fancier Toggle reports that update every few minutes.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. I've been thinking about like RSS. Like there's a bunch of things that I could do with custom widgets. So that's what I've been also building on the side. Otherwise, yeah, feeling pretty good about it. The setup with IA Writer and MindNode is working fine. Yeah. The big question looming over this entire thing is the schedule, but I'm trying to be more hippie myself to an extent. Like I'm trying to go with the flow and accept the realities out of my control, all that kind of stuff. Like it's very much unlike me, but I'm trying to, because I think it's good for my stress levels. So
yeah, well, look, at the end of the day. Well, I mean, who knows? It's incredibly unlikely that they're incredibly unlikely.
Look, this is not launching in 2 weeks, okay?
What I was going to say, that they're just going to drop it randomly. In fact, they can't. You're always going to get at least 1 week's notice.
Exactly.
And then how you deal with that.
Worst case scenario, I will get a 1 week notice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So, what's going to happen in that week? I don't want to think about, but that's the worst case scenario.
If you want to find show notes for this week's episode, go to relay.fm/connected/309. You can find us online in a bunch of places. Go to macstories.net and you can find Federico's at Viticci, Viticci. I am iMike, IMYKE, and I already said about a show that you should listen to. It's called Remaster. I said that one earlier, so no one's going to throw me off this time. Don't forget, if you want to give support for Steven and his plumbing problems, just send him a tweet saying, I support you, Steven, and then also send your favorite plumbing-related emoji. But the most important support that you can give at this time is to go to stjude.org/relay and donate to help us support St. Jude Children's Research Hospital so we can help put an end to childhood cancer during Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. It's a really important charity. It means a lot to us, and especially on this show, We've all been touched by cancer in our own ways, and so it means a lot to us, right?
Yeah. Yes.
This charity
Yes.
means an awful lot to us. Thank you so much to Smile and Pingdom for their support of this week's episode. And thank you to our members as well. If you would like to become a member and support this show, go to getconnectedpro.co and you will be able to get your hands on an ad-free version of the show with additional content to boot. And you'll also get the ASMR special that we did, which people seem to have been equally pleased with and horrified over, which is exactly what I was expecting.
It's the kind of reaction that you're going to get with that kind of content.
That's about it. Until next time, say goodbye, Federico.
Arrivederci.
Cheerio.